Hi everyone and welcome to this video. As promised, today I'm going to talk about my way of doing a retroactive monthly planner, which actually isn't really a plan but more of a review. So basically I show you how I decorate it, how I set everything up and why I decided to make this change. For the decoration I use cutouts from old books that I find at flea markets along with images of Ophelia the painting, which I simply print on regular paper and then glue in. There are actually two paintings of Ophelia, and I didn't even know that at first, and I think, or at least I hope, I'll talk about that in my next video, where I'll introduce the commonplace journal I'm planning to start. So, as I was saying, here I wrote retroactive monthly planner, but I'm actually going to change that because I won't be writing things in advance day by day, planning them like a typical planner, but instead I fill everything in once the month is over. In fact, it's April now, but this one is for March. So how do I proceed? In this case, I start with the decoration. As you can see, I've already sketched it out in pencil beforehand because that helps me get an overall view. Then I go on to fill in the daily boxes based on what I've written in another notebook and on the photos in my phone gallery because I take a lot of pictures of everything. Of course, I created a legend where I note down the main categories: serious movies, comfort food, workout. I use the Micron 01 pen, which I really like. I could also use the 005, but in this case the line will be too thin, so I prefer the 01. I tried to recreate these slightly medieval style symbols that I absolutely love. And then I created this decoration, kind of like a pattern. I didn't take inspiration from anything specific here, I just did it very freely, and I really love these tiny details. I had thought about writing March with the micron as well, like I did for the legend, but I didn't want everything to look too flat or too uniform, so I decided to use gouache instead. So I created a fairly warm color, kind of a brownish orange like burnt sienna. And I love this type of color and I think it works really well with the medieval style decoration. But why did I decide to do this retroactive monthly planner? Mainly because I'm a very anxious person and I realized that planning everything in advance was only making me more anxious. Also because I often didn't manage to complete everything I had planned. So I would end up planning things that I didn't actually do. That's why I decided to switch to a retroactive approach. If you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen that I posted a little teaser of this process, and many of you told me that this is something you already do. I didn't know about this kind of practice before, it came to me very naturally, and I'm really glad because it generally helps reduce a lot of anxiety. I'm also very free when it comes to decoration, so here I drew some lines and then erased them to create a light texture that isn't too heavy. Then I went over it with a pen, following the pencil sketch, but still in a very free way, because my idea of journaling is really about being as free as possible. Journaling should be something that helps us feel better. It should reduce anxiety, not add more, and that's why I try to follow my instinct. And then we are on the decorative part, which is my favorite. I always do a few tests first to see how the elements work together, and then I glue everything down once I'm happy with it. I tried not to make it too heavy, and I think it feels just right in terms of decoration. Finally, I write down all the main things that happened during the month. Of course, not everything is included. These are more like highlights, things that made me feel good. If something isn't there, it means I didn't photograph it because that's my method. I basically have an endless digital archive of photos. And as you can see, I also highlighted the most important sections with a touch of color. And that's it. Thank you so much for watching until the end. I hope you enjoyed this video or found it helpful and inspiring. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.